Oh, I was gonna introduce without the window capture. Alright, we're back. What's this? Oh, damn, I should have looked what this art's called. I forgot what it's called. New art, new me. Last time we did some Tomoe stuff, some bat stories, some office politics, and now we're going deeper because 11 years ago. Let's just go right into it. 11 years ago, 1971. Sunday, 3 weeks have passed since the fire that killed her parents and tore her sister's heart apart. Tomoe was discharged from the hospital after recovering from her mental and physical injuries. And returned to the burned remains of her home. With the permission of the police, she walked through the gate and stepped into the scorched garden. Tomoe looked at the house while desperately trying to suppress the crushing anguish that she felt about the incident. Tomoe and Madoka's room was supposed to be on the second floor, but it had already collapsed, leaving only the remains behind. There was a single sandal remaining on the balcony, probably belonging to the mother who used to sunbathe there. To their mother. She used to sunbathe on the balcony. Oh yeah, for some reason I thought that meant nude, but it doesn't obviously. The clothespins were deformed from the heat and lying strangely on the ground. Her father's only pleasure, his do-it-yourself carpentry shed, was leaning precariously. The persimmon trees she planted together with her mother were extinguished before they could bear fruit even once. The fire was caused by arson. Her father didn't smoke, and she was confident that her perfect mother would never accidentally cause a fire, so the impact upon reaching that conclusion was immeasurable. Her clenched fists trembled. Burning, suspicious-smelling air rose up from the back of her throat. Why? Why did she have to suffer through this? But the happiness of her everyday life was burnt to ash in an instant, so she had to find out why. The insides of her eyes were burning hot. The high-pitched ringing in her ears pierced her inside her head, and her consciousness started to feel distant. Hatred. Regrets. She wanted to kill the person who forced her to bear witness to this. Fair enough, honestly. It's extremely unfortunate. The moment she suddenly began to cry out, the nagging air clung to the back of her throat. Her field of view began to shake and blur over, and her consciousness started to feel more and more distant. However, even so, Tomoe didn't cry. Her broken spirit wouldn't reach rock bottom. Like how she'd cry. Like how she'd admit defeat. I refuse to give in until the criminal who robbed me of what I hold dear is punished for this. Whoever it was that hurt Mom and Dad, I'm certain I'll. Tomoe suddenly felt something odd about the battered storeroom on the side of the building and looked closer as she tried to remember. Then she forcefully pushed the sliding door to reveal a toolbox hidden in the back, and inside she found a notebook bound in oil paper. I wonder if they're actually gonna solve this mystery in this arc. It had nothing noted on the synopsis about it, but would be cool. And this is the note about the date or the journal thing, right? Yep. Kakuchi Airport, June, Wednesday, go. That alone was written on the last page in large text and circled to stand out. She let out a sigh. Back when Tomoe's family lived in Tokyo, how was her father involved with the Kakuchi Airport? After becoming a police officer, she found many opportunities to examine case records and carry out investigations of her own. But even after all this time, the mystery remained unsolved. She gently called out to the empty sky while prying the window blinds apart with her fingertips. Her father undeniably did visit there a few times before the fire occurred, but she still had no idea what he was investigating there. 11 years has passed since then. Still unable to grasp any sort of evidence after all that time, all she could do was quietly bide her time. No shot. Damn it. We really could have just... This always pisses me off. When you just cut the video short a little too early. Now we're all out of whack. Oh, it was just a chapter break. Okay, it wasn't a chapter end, so I guess that's fine. It's a little better. Nagisa? What that? This is the cover girl. I'm assuming just from the color of the text. Looks like the color of her hair in the arc picture. Hiranuma. A girl's voice called out from the waiting room next to the reception desk. The nurse on shift duty, Hiranuma, stopped writing her report for the fire department and tried to focus her eyes as she turned to look up. Ooh. Look at the drip, though. That's insane. Is this her school uniform? Might be the nicest school uniform we've seen. That looks crazy. Mandatory frills? Yes, please. Also, I like the ribbons. The color corresponding ribbons. Even the kilt looks good. And we got a new voice actor in town. I don't even know if we'll see Natsumi this arc. I mean, they're in the same city, so maybe. But it's not going to be the focus for sure. It was a girl named Nagisa Ozaki, who she had grown familiar with over the past few months. She lowered her head and hid the bottom of her face behind the bouquet of flowers she was holding in both her hands. Hiranuma had a big grin on her face when she saw that, and she responded with a friendly good evening of her own. Nagisa said a few words to relieve the tension as she timidly looked up at Hiranuma. The ribbons on both sides of her hair looked good on her, agreed, and her slightly hinkled eyes were full of determination. Well, I can't decipher that, honestly. Her lips were accented by decent accessories, and her lovely blouse presented a moderately luscious sense of quality. True, I guess. Her expression morphed into a slightly sullen frown. However, Hiranuma had recently come to learn this was simply a subconscious reaction from her shy personality. Then Nagisa relaxed her expression in relief and looked down at the colorful bouquet in her hands. They were fresh, vividly bright pink and green cosmo flowers. What the heck are cosmos flowers? This is Google-worthy. Cosmos flower. It's a genus with the common name of cosmos, consisting of flowering plants and sunflower family. Okay, these look nice. I don't think I've seen these before. Oh, maybe I have, actually. Okay. The sweet smell managed even to drift through the window, and Hiranuma couldn't help but smile. After saying that, Nagisa courteously bowed her head. Even though there was still a hint of awkwardness in her responses, when she first started visiting, she hardly said anything more than yes and no, All things considered, it was a remarkable amount of progress.
ああ、でも花瓶がいるわね。ちょっと待ってて。持ってくるから一緒に行きましょう。あ、すみません。お願いします。
Nadisa nodded with a big smile on her face. It was a recent development for her to be comfortable relying on others like this. As she thought that, Hiranuma gave her a wink, then stood up and headed into the back room. The hallway looked somewhat dim, perhaps due to the time of the evening. It was also close to dinner time, so there were very few visitors coming and going.
さっき警報が鳴ってたみたいだって1階で患者のおばあさんから聞いたんですけど、何かありましたか？ああ、火災報知器がちょっと故障したみたいなの。すぐ調べたけど何も異常はなかったみたいだから心配ないわよ。そうだったんですか。聞いてちょっとびっくりしました。私もよ。驚かせてごめんなさいね。
Into that, Hiranuma had to visit every single hospital room to explain the situation and only finished up a little while ago. And after this, there's a meeting with a supplier that she should have to put in overtime to attend.
すみません、忙しい時に。気にしないで。それにしても、園芸部って珍しい部活動よね。やっぱり花壇でお花とかを育てたりするの？はい。母がフラワーアレンジメントの教室を開いているから。
Fair enough.
私も花が好きで。
Is a gardening club unusual? I don't think we had one in high school, but...
素敵なお仕事ね。尾崎さんも将来はお母さんと同じ。
I know gardens are more of a thing in Japan, right? For their schools. At least according to Japanese media.
あ、いえ。母は大学に行ってからゆっくり考えた方がいいって。あんまり儲からないみたいです。趣味の教室って。
The girl shrugged her shoulders, then lightly tilted her head with a bitter smile on her face. Indeed, it would be difficult for a housewife to turn a profit on a hobby with such high expenses, unless it was a particularly innovative or large-scale endeavor. It was also a question of the times. It's natural for a parent to pressure their daughter into an educational background that will lead to a stable future.
尾崎さんも塾とかに通ってるの？はい。実は明日の日曜日昇級テストなんです。
Seems like a straight-laced person so far.
今度上がれば
And she's not from Hinamizawa, so I don't think that'll change.
入試には有利だって。入試ってまだ先の話でしょ？今からいい点を取っておけばどこに行くのでも自由に志望校が選べますから。高校はちょっと無理だけど、やっぱり大学は浩平くんと一緒のところに行きたいし。そうなの。頑張ってね。はい。
Dedicated to this Kohei guy. In that quiet reply, there's a hint of stiffness. That was a product of the anger she felt about the unreasonable circumstances separating her from her favorite person.
でもそれなら、差し出がましくてごめんね。だったら余計に毎週新幹線を使ってまでここに通うのは大変なんじゃないの？
Shinkansen? She's taking a bullet train here every week?
交通費だって。
That's insane if that's... Shinkansen's a bullet train, I think.
大丈夫です。
Which is way more expensive than the normal train.
交通費は親が全部出してくれてますから。
Based? Okay.
急な引っ越しだったし、それくらいの案内は許してくれるって。へえ、いいご両親ね。私に気を使ってるんですよ。むしろ怖がってるのかな。私もあの子みたいになっちゃうかも。
This has to do... I'm guessing... They mentioned it in the synopsis, right? These are, like, the people from Rena's old school. And maybe Kohei's a victim of, like, remembering the Rena lore where she beat up a bunch of kids with a metal bat. So we're actually learning about that, which is kind of interesting. I didn't really think that would be a topic.
私が不満を抱えて爆発しないように。だから帰りが遅くなっても口うるさく言われなくなりました。あなたを信じてるからって怯えた目で言って。そんな腫れ物扱いに優しくされるとかえってショックなんですけど。そう。
As Hiranuma responded, she started to wonder if something was going on at home. Even though they saw each other face to face every week, she never pried into Nagisa's affairs. This was the first time they actually discussed it. With those doubts in mind, Hiranuma opened her mouth, searching for the right words to say, but just then, the smile disappeared from Nagisa's face, and she stopped on the spot. Following her lead, Hiranuma also stopped in place and turned to her with a puzzled expression.
あれから浩平くんどうですか？順調よ。視力も回復してきているみたいだし、退院はもうすぐかしらね。いえ、そっちじゃなくて。
Hiranuma avoided giving Nagisa's question an immediate response. Then she sighed and turned to ask the girl about it.
ねえ、尾崎さん。この前、沢村くんが寝言で変なことを言ってたって話、本当なの？はい。
Nagisa's eyes darted back and forth in confusion, but after a brief hesitation, she nodded and responded.
先週、浩平くんが高熱を出して寝込んでいた時です。うなされたように、Oyashiro様が来る。助けてくれって。
God. And he's not from Hinamizawa either, unless he caught the virus, but I don't think that's how it works. I'm pretty sure it's just PTSD from Rena bashing him while saying Oyashiro-sama or something.
はっきり聞きました。それについて彼はなんて？そんなこと知らないって。主治医さんに相談しても同じ答えでした。でも本当に彼、私の手を握ってそう言ったんです。なのに誰も信じてくれない。
Nagisa dejectedly drooped her shoulders and bit her lip. It didn't look like she was telling a lie, but she was deeply disappointed that nobody believed her. Oyashiro-sama. Honestly, it was a word he couldn't recall hearing before. Rumors alleged that's the name of the guardian deity from some remote village's religious beliefs. It's pretty spoopy.
彼の問診ではそんな言葉は出てこなかったって言ってたし、どういうことなのかしら。私が聞きたいです。
No?
一体どうしてなんですか？浩平君がお社様って知りもしない言葉を夢の中で言うなんて。
But she knows what it is?
あ、ごめんなさい。
Maybe?
別にあなたを疑ってのことじゃないの。本当よ。
Nagisa had a hint of rage in her voice, so Hiranuma tried to say something to calm her down.
本人も知らない言葉が出てくるなんておかしいと思う。どこかで聞いたか、誰かから聞かされたか。オカルトじゃあるまいし、そうでなきゃありえないこと。
What do you even mean?
だから、それを知りたいだけなの。
What a weird sentence.
何か心当たり。
I guess she means like anything supernatural happening to him. For some reason, when she said that, I just thought like a cult walked in.
だったら、きっとあの子です。あの子が浩平君に吹き込んだんです。
Nagisa clenched her teeth with a look of hatred. So this is a year before, by the way. So this is the year where Rena transferred and Satoshi disappeared. I think that's the timeline. So she's so this thing that happened is pretty fresh, obviously. Nagisa clenched her teeth with a look of hatred on her face as she said that. She squeezed the bouquet close to her chest and a few of the flower petals fell down to the ground. Oh, she's no friend of mine. There we go. The girl spat out that deep, heavily reverberating tone. Since Hiranuma knew the history of why the boy was hospitalized, all she could do was sigh. 6 months ago, a female student caused a violent incident at one particular school. It wasn't covered in the newspapers, but Hiranuma heard rumors about the horrible scene. The girl suddenly attacked her close friends after school, beating them indiscriminately with a metal bat. And one of the victims was Nagisa's boyfriend Kohei, who suffered injuries so severe that it nearly blinded him. After that, she continued her rampage throughout the school building, smashing the windows in the hallways and striking the lockers and walls in the classrooms, until eventually she was apprehended by several PE teachers. Various factors were cited as possible instigators for the incident, including stress over the exams and human relations. However, since the female student never gave an official explanation to the victims, there was nothing to prove the truth. The school was also afraid of how the incident would affect their appearances, so they did their best to prevent the release of information. Classic. That wasn't just in consideration for the students, but also to keep the parents from getting upset and pulling their kids away just before exams. In that sense, it was a completely natural response. Yeah, the school culture's a little different. I mean, maybe that does happen in Canada, but I can't really think of examples, but I guess you wouldn't know if they're hiding all the shit. Moreover, not only did the perpetrator keep her mouth shut, but the victims did the same, and so the incident simply became a thing of the past. Excuse me? Remove the eye? That's racist? You don't got the eye privilege?
結局あの子は全然謝罪も何も言わずにどこかへ転校していきました。先生たちに行き先を聞いても誰も教えてくれないんです。浩平くんはもう少しで取り返しのつかないほどの大怪我をしたのに。尾崎さん、許せないです。
Yo, what? Just try it, bro. Rena's a beast. Couldn't do anything if you tried.
そんな顔をしていたら沢村くんが心配するわよ。え？あ。
The girl took a deep breath and hung her head, seeming to finally come back to her senses, and when she noticed the bouquet was slightly crushed, she hurried to straighten it out.
尾崎さん。はい。気持ちはわかるけど、怒ったり憎んだりしていても相手はもういないの。だったらあなたは今いる大切な人のためにあなたのできることをするんじゃないかしら。その方がきっと沢村くんも喜ぶわ。だからもうこの話はやめましょう。ひょっとしたら何かの本かテレビで見ただけの言葉かもしれないし、勘ぐりすぎると辛くなるわよ。
Well, you know, it was from Rena, though. Nagisa responded with a faint nod, but the look on her face made it clear she still wasn't convinced. Alright, let's see this Kohei guy, if he has a sprite. Eventually, the two of them reached the hospital room at the end of the hallway. The tag next to the door had the name Kohei Sawamura written in felt-tipped pen. Hiranuma lightly knocked on the door. I thought that's what the relationship was described as. Her face was bright red, so she hid it behind the bouquet. Hiranuma gently gazed at her innocent reaction, but once it started feeling uncomfortable, she turned toward the door. He normally responded immediately, but there is no reply. Oh. Without hearing a word in response, Hiranuma put a hand on the doorknob, but her unease suddenly transformed into suspicion because the door was locked.
おかしいわね。どうして。
Oh no.
平沼さん。あ、ちょっと待ってね。えっと。
She pulled a keychain out of her pocket, then inserted one of the keys into the keyhole. I'm guessing it can't be locked from the inside. They wouldn't give the patients that power. All the rooms in the hospital were equipped with locks due to certain circumstances. Oh, what the heck? The patient can lock them from the inside. I mean, I guess it's a security feature, but... Huh. But the on-call nurse is still able to unlock them using the master key. However, this patient never locked his door even once since he was transferred to this room last week, so... I don't know if that's a thing. I haven't been in the hospital. Well, I have, but I haven't been hospitalized myself in a while.
大丈夫よ。私が説明するから。沢村さん、入りますよ。
Man's dead for sure.
失礼します。
Maybe he did get the syndrome then. We'll see if his neck's so scratchy. After saying that, Hiranuma opened the door to the hospital room and stepped inside. So red. Oh my god. Never mind. However, there's nobody inside the hospital room. The comforter was overturned in a way that made it look like someone was there recently. The inside of the room was very quiet. The only sound was the clamor of a caged canary. What the heck? Why is there a caged canary there? Which was placed inside the room to comfort the patient. The canary straps?
どこに行ったのかしら。部屋を出たのなら鍵がかかっているはずがないのに。
Closed room mystery.
あれ、窓が開けっぱなし。あ、私閉めてきます。
Did the guy jump? How recently? Just then, an evening breeze blew in, causing the skin-toned curtains to flutter. The girl placed the bouquet on the table, then quietly approached the window. She began to put her handle on the hand on the handle of the window, then leaned out. Ah. God, I know everything, man. He jumped. The girl remained fixed in place, gazing down from the window, trembling with a pale look on her face. Then Hiranuma ran to her and looked in the same direction. The boy dressed in the pajamas was lying on the ground down below with his arms and legs spread wide, and the ground around the body was a distinctively different hue from the setting sun. The gray concrete was dyed in dark black. Hiranuma grabbed the screaming girl, then turned and retreated to the wall across from the window. Then she snatched the nearby nurse intercom receiver and began shouting into it without waiting for a response. Toda? Looking down from the 8th floor window is a miserable sight to behold. Yeah, 8 floors onto concrete, and if he fell flat, face forward, he might be dead. That distance was the boundary between the living and the dead. It's pretty high up. What the heck? Look at that bear statue. I don't know what that is, though. It's your boy. It's your brother. Tomoe received a call from Chief Yamokai to report in immediately after lunch, and the first thing he said after she unwillingly entered his office.
とある民放キー局の番組企画にぜひとも君の協力が必要とのことだ。まあ、大方は想像できると思うがね。
大体は。
Tomoe disheartenedly shrugged her shoulders as she muttered that to herself. Ever since making a name for herself as a detective, she was starting to get sick of requests for interviews that came with the new title and workplace, especially recently since she had received multiple requests for TV appearances. It was understandable frequent appearances from female police officers would bring in better ratings than some rough, athletic police officer. Her issue wasn't so much with composition, but rather the theme. Nah, I'll leave that jokeless. She looked through the proposal from the TV station and sighed. The content of the program detailed the success story of a female police officer who was selected as part of the National Police Agency's recommended group from her post at Ibaraki Prefectural Police Department, apparently. In short, they wanted to publicize a story about equal employment opportunities among men and women as was prevalent in recent years. Honestly, it wasn't very interesting. Oof. As much as Tomoe heard people say even women are capable and don't discriminate, it all seemed like just putting on a bold front. She was receiving this level of recognition because she was a woman. Besides, Tomoe toiled endlessly on her criminal investigation activities day and night, seeking opportunities to solve the mysteries of her father left behind. So to instead twist her story into working about expanded women's right to appeal the enthusiasm of working women, she couldn't think of anything more disrespectful. That's why Tomoe came to the same decision every time. Jesus, a curt reply. Kind of based in her own way.
まあそんなに堅苦しく考えるほどのことではないと思うがね。
それに私は捜査に関わる立場にありますので、顔が知られるとそれだけ活動がやりにくくなります。ですからせっかくのお話ですが辞退させていただきます。
I mean, that's fair actually. Madonka?
一回テレビに出たくらいですぐに覚えられたりしないっての。身長を期すのは刑事として当然のことよ。って。
True.
なんであんたがここに?
She's just vibing. Although she noticed the incongruity a little while ago, Tomoe finally turned and asked about it. Madoka and Fujita were standing by the wall when Tomoe first entered the chief's office.
所長に何か用なの? 関係ないんだったら公務中だし、席を外してもらいたいんだけど。いや、だって呼ばれたから。ねえ、藤田さん。
あ、そう。
Fujita.
自分もなんで呼ばれたのかわからないんですが。
Fujita looked apologetic as he said that, scratching his head. Apparently, he knelt down and begged for forgiveness in front of his wife's parents after the misunderstanding from the case the other day and was allegedly forgiven. Thanks to that, he was able to go into work this morning full of joy, fondly telling Tomoe the story. The people involved took it very seriously, but looking at it in hindsight, it was just a minor nuisance. But she did keep thinking to herself, go to hell, as she shoveled down her lunch hamburgers.
いいなあ、東京出張。お土産よろしくね、お姉ちゃん。だから行かないんだってば。とにかく断ってください。ただでさえ今は結構案件が多くて、それどころではありませんので。
Dedicating time to a TV appearance would mean suspending work on all the investigations currently being carried out, and the only way to make it would be to work unpaid overtime. Unlike Madoka, who has the freedom to frolic about, Tomoe was very busy with investigation activities every single day, so she couldn't find enjoyment in setting them aside.
それは困った。
どうしてです？
いや、もう
Based.
経営してしまったからな。
Nice. Owned.
はい。
There's the meme music. It's been a while. Tomoe cast aside her cool demeanor and shouted out loud.
ほら、これ出張許可証。あいにくグリーン車ではないが、旅費は広報室持ちとのことだから、新幹線の指定席で。
いや、ちょっと待ってください。
Shinkansen is bullet train.
なんで受けるんです？なんで私に無断で？
そら君、聞けば断ると思ったからな。
Where's her hand?
そういう問題じゃないでしょ。私の意思は、権利はっていうか、何の権限であなたがオーケーなんて出してんですか？
Nice one.
いや、実はここだけの話。私は所長だ。
True.
上司だから。
秘密っぽく言わなくても知ってるわ。大体上司のあなたにあるのは承認権で決定権じゃないでしょ。
そうなのか。
確認するな。冗談じゃない。絶対嫌です、こんな依頼は。そもそもテレビ番組に現役の刑事が出演なんて一体何を考えているんですか？今後は秘匿捜査もできなくなりますよ。
A loud bang roared out as Tomoe intensely slammed her hands down on the lottery desk, screaming and shouting. Any ordinary detective, no even a hardened criminal, would tremble before this display. Fujita muttered something to that effect to himself. However, no matter how much she had to say, Yamokai ignored her booming voice and simply continued polishing the golf club he had just picked up.
聞いてるんですか、所長。
もうちゃんと
Bap,
聞いてる
bap,
ぞ。
bap, 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 bap. Yes, I'm carefully listening.
いやいや、最近年のせいか耳が。
Wait, I don't know why I read that.
今くらいの大声ならちょうどいいくらい。
Oh my god.
何の話だ？
真面目に聞け。お姉ちゃん、冷静にね。
Madoka frantically moved in front of Tomoe and desperately tried to stop her momentum. If she couldn't stop it here, it wouldn't be much longer until the verbal assault turned physical.
もうカオルさんじゃなかった。所長もあんまり見ない警部をからかわないでください。
いや、すまんな、見ないくん。ちょっとした場を温めるジョークだったんだが。
むしろ怒りだよ、ついは。
みなさん、ブレイクブレイク。
Break, break. Perhaps concerned about touching a woman's body, Fujita kept a short distance away while trying to comfort her. With the two of them attempting to stop her, she started to regain her composure. She adjusted her collar and took a deep breath.
とにかく私はお断りします。なんでしたら私が直接テレビ局にご連絡しても構いませんので。
まあ、聞きたまえみないくん。そもそも警察官は国民の税金で生活している公僕の官だ。まあ、そうなると当然その勤務内容がそれに見合った基準に達しているか、常に国民に開示しておく必要がある。また大規模捜査においてマスコミの協力はなくてはならないもの。そのためには日頃から懇意にしておかなければいかんと思うのだが、違うか？
Nope.
それは。
Those were good reasons, but even hearing it straight from the chief's mouth wasn't enough to convince her.
でもそれは広報課の仕事でしょ。現役の刑事の顔を公衆の面前にさらしていいことがあるとも思えません。
なに、一度の出演で顔を覚えられたりはしない。
The Madoka line?
大衆に記憶力がそれほどあるのなら。
But she's hot, so maybe they will.
あっという間に捕まっているはずだからな。
ビデオに撮られたらどうするんですか？それに番組の再放送だってあるでしょ。
そもそもテレビ局に個人情報とかノウハウを晒すことにはリスクも問題もあって。
Just then, looking at the golf club Yamamoto was polishing a moment ago stirred up a memory in Tomoe. It was brand new. The design resembled the imported titanium driver she recently saw in a TV commercial. However, the Japanese release certainly shouldn't have been for a while longer, but he was able to obtain one despite that. Oh my god, he traded her interview for a golf club based. My man.
まさか。
いやー、君の出演したらほんのお礼だ。
My man.
いいだろこれ。
Flash. Listen, it's a new titanium model. Madoka and Fujita just barely managed to restrain Tomoe, who was screaming threats while starting to climb over the desk, ready to bludgeon him. What the heck is this? Now this is a CG. What's that? What's that picture? What's that painting you got?
君も欲しかったのかね、このドライバー。
いただけますか、今すぐに。それであんたのドタマ買っちまって裏庭の池にホールインしてやら。
未来さん、行きません、人情沙汰は。それに署内でこれ以上騒動を起こしたら本気で懲戒者ですよ。
私が懲戒ならこいつはなんだ。贈収賄の現行犯でしょうが。
Indeed, there's no denying that.
藤田君、私が責任取るからこんな極悪人とっとと逮捕しろ。そしたら私が今すぐ地検に起訴して刑務所にぶち込んでやる。待ってよ、お姉ちゃんってば。
Owned. At this point, Fujita's aversion to touching a woman's body was no longer a factor. If anything were to happen to Chief here, the staff at Personal Affairs would never keep this quiet. Neither of them wanted to damage her career with something so stupid.
話して、藤田君。あなたにも刑事魂はあるでしょ。少しでも正義感があるなら目の前の汚職を見逃してもいいの。
まあ俺もちょっとひどいとは思いますが。
After all, no matter how you twist the interpretation, it was clearly a bribe. Deputy Chief Hara was eagerly searching for reasons to throw the chief and Tomoe out, so it would be outrageous if the story got out.
藤田巡査部長、君は見ない君の味方か。
はあ？味方も何も一般的な常識論から考えて自分は。
ならば君から見ない君を説得したまえ。一般的な常識論でね。
With attention suddenly directed at him, Fujita turned to Yamamoto with a confused look on his face while still restraining Tomoe. Persuade her, even though it was an attempt to keep her under control, he couldn't help but think, why me? And no matter how he looked at it, no matter how much he thought about it, what Tomoe said was definitely true.
いや、常識って話で言えば、やっぱそういう利益供与の測り方は良くないかと思いますが。
ならば質問を変えよう。私に逆らえば私が人事に働き。
What the fuck? The corruption goes deeper? Oh my god. He's really strong-arming him.
で、そうなった時に君の奥さんがその理由を君に問いただした後、果たして君を許してくれるかな？
That's dirty. How could he exploit the weak spot of a married man? And with that case happening just the other day, if he got his bonus cut due from something else involving Tomoe, no doubt about it, there'd be hell to pay from his wife this time.
それは。
藤田君。
それを踏まえて再度質問しよう。 見ない警部を説得するか、奥さんにまた土下座をするか。二つに一つ選ぶの？
And where did he even get that information from? The last time he kneeled to his wife was at her parents' house. I mean, wasn't he bragging about it? Normally, Fujita would struggle and struggle to make a choice before ultimately siding with justice. However, he felt a taste of death just last night and absolutely didn't want to experience it again. And so he gave in without a fight. It's the right choice. It is what it is. You win some, you lose some.
お願いします。取材出てください。
はあ、藤田、あんた上司を売る気か？
すみませんすみません。もう俺家内の実家の前で土下座するのは嫌なんです。あれは心が折れるんです。本気で。自分がものすごく惨めで情けないやつに思えて人格を否定された気分になるんです。
この恥知らず野郎が！
It wasn't clear who she was directing that insult towards.
まあまあ、落ち着きたまえ、みないくん。君は勘違いをしているぞ。
何をですか？
これは賄賂ではなく、ただのプレゼント。
So true.
別に私が要求したわけでも、これに対して利便を図ったわけでもない。まあ、雑誌を見ながらゴルフの話になった時に、これはいいなとは。
それを世間一般では恐喝と言うんだ。この妖怪くれくれじじい。しかも利便思いっきり測ってるでしょうが、私に無断で。
いやいや、
True.
それは個人的な見解の相違というものだ。とりあえず要件は伝えたぞ。来週の予定ちゃんと開けておくように。では。
ふざけんな！あ、これ待て！
Having said that, Yamotai walked out of his office with a calm expression as Tomori rampaged behind him.
ほら、逃げるな、クソ所長！
未来さん落ち着いて。おちょいだだだだだだだだ。未来さんたんま俺に関節技はやめてください。いやうわ折れます折れます。今度は心じゃなくて腕が折れちまいます。
もしもし、刑事一課、高江式さん
Oh
あ、
god.
半藤さんもいますね。大至急全員待ちの廊下じゃなかった、所長室に見ない次長が苦しいんです。
こんちくしょー！
They nuked it? Sorry. We gotta end it there. That's a great ending. Thank you guys for watching this episode. It was super fun as always. And I'll see you next time with some more console arc goodness. But until then, see you.